Happy birthday once again.
Okay.
I'm now handing over to the economic freedom fighters. Who is starting?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
She had a good voice. I was going to sing for her, so I'm challenged. I don't know how to sing. I know how to chant. Thank you very much, General, and the chairperson. General, I just want to ask if you know, or maybe let me put it differently. What interested you into joining the police?
When I grew up in the township of Ashdown in Pietermaritzburg, I witnessed at the time the IFP and ANC were in loggerheads in the same township. When I started witnessing how people have been killed and nothing happens, and people, some of them that I knew, it is part of the thing that drove me to say, what can I do to assist in this regard? So that's what influenced me to join the police. And I must say, honorable member, when I joined, it was exactly that I needed to fight the criminals. That's why I chose the career that I chose in the service. That I'm not going to join the police station to go and be a court orderly. No, that's not what I want. I want to be there on the ground and deal with action.
Then you went to the college, and then from the college?
When I trained in Pretoria College, and from there I went to Potchefstroom, the Public Order Police Unit in Potchefstroom. At the time, you couldn't choose where to go. The only option was to become a detective or you become a uniform branch. And because I wanted to be on the field, they said to me, then the highly trained unit that you must go to is internal stability unit. Maybe that's the right word to use at the time. In June 1993, when I joined, it was called internal stability unit, but then later changed the name to Public Order Police.
And then how do you arrive at the task force?
I became aware of the special task force. When I joined the police, the internal stability unit used to wear camouflage. The camouflage I was wearing on the 6th of July. When the amalgamation happened and the camouflage was stopped from POP, it was directed that POP must be issued with the uniform that the shirt looks the same as pants. It was introduced there, that shirt. Usually it used to be a light blue shirt and a gray pants. But POP was introduced with the same type of color and to stop wearing camouflage. So we did not wear camouflage. And then an unfortunate incident happened in the area called Shoba in Potchefstroom, where the African National Congress had won the elections in 1994. And the few members of the IFP, few members of the ANC that are located within the village of IFP started celebrating that victory. They erected their flag, the ANC flag, to celebrate the victory of the African National Congress. And I happened to be there and I warned them. I said, you are calling for trouble. You're in the middle of the ocean. You're an island. You can't be raising up this flag and celebrating, whereas your neighbors are not happy with the fact that they were defeated. And then it so happened that shortly after that, those people were attacked by IFP. They were killed. And after the murder happened, the leadership of the police brought the investigation team from the national office to come to Potchefstroom. And that investigation team was accompanied by task force. So it was the first time I see people in camouflage that we are no longer wearing. So when I saw them there, I asked them, but who are you? Because we don't wear this uniform anymore. Then they said, no, they are special task force. So I asked them, what do you do as special task force? They started explaining to me. That's how I first learned about the task force. So it was exciting for me because I always wanted to be in such an environment and I never knew about it. And fast forward, I took a transfer to Durban. When I arrived in Durban, the current command of the task force in Durban, Kellen Yao, was there, the unit, and I saw him and I engaged with him and he said, no, they recently decentralized the task force to Durban. And then he gave me the video of what the task force does. I went to see it and I watched the video and I realized, okay, now this is troublesome. And then I was excited and I joined it.
So it's safe it's safe for me to call you a career policeman.
Yeah, well, we can call me that I've been pursuing different areas in the police all my life until now.
Are you aware of something called deployment cadres?
No, we don't do that in the police. We don't use the cadres names.
No, I'm saying, are you aware of the policy of a deployment cadres?
I always hear from the ruling party talking about deployment cadres.
You are not a product of a deployment cadre policy. You are a career policeman.
Yeah, no, I'm a career policeman, unfortunately.
Those deployed cadres that came into SAPS who had no career in the police. Some claim to fame, they are from exile, they were underground, they were this, they were that. Do you think they helped to improve the policing in this country, or they deteriorated to where we find it today?
Yeah, I think the latter part is more appropriate. I think with this amalgamation and the presence of people who did not grow up in the police, the first thing that I think created a problem was to undermine the discipline culture of the police. That we don't use that culture. The word comrade was introduced at the time, with the police officers, a constable started calling it a captain comrade, which was foreign to the police. So the moment they started addressing each other like that, it just made the situation worse. The situation became worse after the ANC Polokwane conference in 2007, because while you were there in a conference, when the former deputy president, who became a president later, was fired, that's where we started seeing the real division, because he gets fired and the police that's supposed to protect the former deputy president at the time started not getting favors or support from their commanders in Pretoria. And the former president will travel with his members in an armored vehicle where the windows don't open in the 35 degrees heat, and the aircon won't be working. And they will be traveling London bread of KZN, and they'll be calling their commanders for a better vehicle, and they will be told that man is not a president, so he must drive in that heat. So the members started experiencing that. So the members within that space started getting conditioned into politics themselves, because then they favor this one who's now not treated bad. Fast forward to that, we then have a conference in Polokwane, the police management goes there, but they don't go there to police the African National Congress conference. They are going there to erect their own marquee tent on the side with alcohol and everything else to celebrate the victory that was coming. And the unfortunate part happened is that the deputy president who was fired won that election in Polokwane. And the return of the leadership back to Pretoria changed everything in the police, because we started getting a recruitment to join political parties within the police premises in Pretoria, within the protection services in the main. The division of the police got affected the most is the PSS that protects the VIPs. The members were recruited to join COPE as a political party by police generals in the police premises. So that was just the beginning of the downfall of what followed thereafter. So you then start hearing senior officers in the police started calling comrades, comrade, and it became the terminology used throughout. And yeah, I think that amalgamation and the presence of the people that regarded themselves as politicians was the downfall of the discipline of the organization.
And that road went even worse in the crime intelligence.
Yeah, well, the members of crime intelligence might not necessarily have been politicians per se that are involved in the road, but the leadership that arrived at crime intelligence were comrades. As I said earlier, you arrive in, you are an executive member, you're a senior member, you find people know the system inside who are junior, and they capture you. They manipulate you. They make you live a comfortable life, and you are happy with that, but you don't pay attention on what they are doing in the bottom. So that's exactly what happened there. Yes, the leadership might have been from the political party coming to crime intelligence, but their intention was not the bad intentions. But when they arrived, they found these resources within crime intelligence that make available to them. And they took those resources and these resources made their life comfortable. And it just became a culture without realizing that these members that are making this life comfortable, they are actually causing more damage internal. So when these leadership are moving, and anyone that comes as the leader, they want to capture the person. And this one goes and the other one comes in, they want to capture. It became a culture. And I must say, the culture that developed might not necessarily be a political culture, but the greed and members within the service that started getting involved in business and started getting interested in money. They might not necessarily be politicians themselves. They were pure police officers. But because they knew how the system works and they saw these sinners that don't know the system, and then they started manipulating it. So both ways, then you could blame the senior police officers, although junior, as well as those ones that came from outside the organization.
But in the body of, I hear the leadership, in the body of the crime intelligence, were there no cadres who were claiming to come from Bokoto, in the ANC underground intelligence and all of that, who joined the intelligence, not as leadership, but as operatives?
Yeah, they
now get involved in these covert operations, but they don't have necessarily the skill or qualifications as career policemen.
Sure, there's a lot of them that arrive like that. There was a lot of them. We've had a system that we're trying to work with in the police of the former non-statutory force members that needed to be rewarded in some degree within the service that were employed in. So they arrive at different levels. Some of them were constables, sergeants, and up the ranks. The others that came on the senior level, but others grew within the service.
So how do you become now the acting national commissioner?
I don't know whether I should thank my grandmother, wherever she is, because I was sleeping and I was going to wake up in the next morning to travel with the National Commission of Police to visit Mpumalanga province. When I get a phone call from the General Dladla, who was in charge of the presidential team, and he says to me that the minister wants to see me in the morning. I did not know the reason for that call. I then had to phone the chief of staff at the office, actually spokesperson of the Minister of Police at the time, who was a spokesperson. That general was a spokesperson of the National Commission, Gerald Cele, because he was the National Commission of the Police. I phoned her and I told her, say, we're supposed to be traveling in the morning with a police jet to Mpumalanga. I've been called by the minister, so I'm no longer traveling. I don't know what he wants. But ordinarily, because I'm from the Special Task Force at the time, and I'm in charge of the component that deals with Special Task Force and all these high-risk operations, from time to time, if the presidential team have got some risks that they've identified somewhere, they always call on us to come and provide that technical support on them. I thought maybe there's something that might be a threat, either with the president team or somewhere that the minister wanted to talk about. I arrive in his house and he says to me, the president wanted to see me, so I must go and meet the president. I went to the president and the president says, I've now taken a decision to appoint you as acting national commissioner because we are suspending Gerald Cele based on that procurement of that building in Pretoria. So it came as a shock. And that was that. That's how I was appointed.
Who's the president at that time?
President Zuma.
Who's the minister?
Minister Mteto, Nathi Mteto, the late.
And then how do you leave that position of acting?
And ceremoniously so, because I was frustrated with the role that the minister was playing over Mdluli over time. And I felt that I cannot be able to work within the political space in this fashion. If this is how the people operate or occupying these positions supposed to interact with executive authority, I'm not willing to take instructions of this nature because they are not right. They are wrong. They are encroaching into the management responsibility of the police commission, of the national commissioner. Maybe I must talk about the experience that also I had learned prior to that. Mdluli is the only general in the South African Police Service that was ever appointed by the panel of ministers in the history since we started in 95 to date. I said the Act only allows the minister to appoint the initial head, nobody else. But the Mdluli's post panel was presided over by the late Minister Mthethwa, and I don't know who are the panel members that were part of it. The person who was the acting national commissioner at the time, Commissioner Williams, was excluded from the process. Mdluli then gets appointed. So which then Mdluli, there was the intention of getting Mdluli at crime intelligence by all means. For what good reason and what experience did Mdluli had at the time? From my assessment, I realized there was other reasons other than his competency to do the job that made him to be rewarded by being given a crime intelligence post by the minister at the time. So fast forward to that. When there's these disciplinary steps taken against Mdluli, the ministers want to intervene and say, you can't do this and that. You can't discipline the man. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. The minister. So we then confirmed that he brought him into the organization because it was a reward for him to come in there. And so that conflict and having assessed these things, and I must say, Honorable Chair and members, I did not know about the Guptas before until Sheraton Hotel in Pretoria, when I was invited to meet these gentlemen by the late minister who says, do not use City Press and Sunday Time to advertise. We always advertise post on those newspapers because they've got a big footprint in the country. We're looking for something, we advertise on those newspapers. And the minister says, don't use those papers because they're not helping, they don't want to transform and so forth. Use New Age. Yeah, well, I thought, okay, maybe we need to rotate papers, maybe New Age must have an opportunity. I didn't even know what is New Age. Then I went to the office. When I presented this thing to the management, they said to me, you know who owns New Age? I said, no, who owns it? They say the Guptas. I said, okay, so what is wrong? At the time, remember, I'm coming from operations side. I don't even know what this Guptas about. They said, no, these ones are implicated politically in this fashion and that fashion. Besides, they don't have the footprint equal to what Sunday Times and City Press has. So if we advertise through them, a lot of people are not going to get information anyway, because they don't supply their papers across the land and breadth of the country. So that's how I got to expose. So taking those and adding them together, then I realized I'm in deep in a political space here, and I'm not comfortable with this, and I cannot take it. I'm either going to fight with the minister, which is going to end ugly. Let me tell the president that this is not what I signed for. So it's either the president allows the minister to do what he does, or he let me go and go back to the operations and chase criminals. So that's how the president decided he's going to bring someone, and then Jarpiaga came. And indeed, I went to sit at home for a year without doing anything.
Now, when the minister communicates to you not to continue with cases against Mdluli, how does he do that? Does he write a letter? Does he call a meeting? How does he communicate that? Please stop cases against Mdluli.
Yeah, he called me into a meeting in his residence, and it is in his residence where he was in company of the Inspector General of Intelligence, Advocate Gabde, the late, where he says to me that the advocate was telling him that I forced her, that she must recommend that Mdluli be charged. That's where we had a debate, because I did not force her. And I told the minister, if you want me to do what you say I must do, put it in black and white. And they did not want to put it in black and white. Instead, he instructed the Inspector General to put it in black and white, so that I use the Inspector General's recommendations for me not to charge Mdluli. That is on a disciplinary part. But on the criminal part, it was not the minister directly, but it was Advocate Mkhwebi from the NPA. I hope the members have got Advocate Bredenbach, who's an MP here, who's a member of this committee. Perhaps she must come and sit here and talk to ad hoc committee and explain what was her role on that case, because I understand that she was the one who was holding that criminal case against Mdluli, where she was instructed, from what I was told, to withdraw that case from court. That had already said. So why did she then comply with that instruction? I have no clue.
Now, when you communicate to the president that we're engaged in some illegal activity which I didn't sign up for, how do you communicate that to the president? Because the president would have ordinarily asked for something in a written form? What did they say to you? Or did you write to the president? How did you communicate this to the president that there's something going on, which is not up to what we are expected to do as police?
It is unfortunate that I did not write to him. I went there in person. So I had a one-on-one engagement with the president about it. And you're correct, honorable member, I would have expected the president to conduct some investigation on this thing, but the president didn't. He simply said, okay, if you're having issues with the minister, just give me time, I'm going to appoint someone else to take over from you. And that was the end of the meeting.
And that's President Zuma we're talking about?
That's correct.
We did not do anything about this matter when you communicated to him that we have been invited into doing wrong things?
Yeah, no, they didn't do anything about it.
Now, why do they put you at home after releasing you? They went to fetch you from your position, ask you to come and act, and then when you say, I can't be part of a criminal syndicate, you are sent home. What do they communicate to you around that time? What is the reason of you staying at home?
Honorable members, when I had met with the minister, I called the entire top management of the SAPS and I told them what transpired in the minister's residence. And I told them that they must prepare themselves, that they're all going to be fired and they're going to be victimized because whoever is going to come in is going to come with a mandate that perhaps will say they must get rid of everyone. Some of the senior managers took me serious, others did not take me serious. But because I was prepared for that, indeed that will happen. Maybe Gerald Pierre must come here and explain why she did not allocate me a post for that long and allow me to sit at home and draw a salary every month. So she will have to come and explain that because she was the boss. She's the one who's going to have to come and explain that despite my experience, as I've displayed here, that she will choose to appoint junior people to go and act in positions that they did not have much of experience of, whereas I'm sitting at home. There was a person who was a non-trained police officer. With respect, she joined the police and she's heading our training currently. She was deployed as a head of crime intelligence at one stage by Gerald Pierre.
Will I be correct that you were actually being punished for being disciplined?
I believe so. I believe so, honorable member, because it did not only end there. It was not only about sitting at home. It was sitting at home and state security, crime intelligence, deploy counterintelligence against Kwanazi, against Kumalo, against Masimon. So we were not just kept at home, but we've been monitored 24/7.
General, you know, you speak interestingly about 2011, especially in relation to crime intelligence. What was happening in 2011? Well, some of us for sure were very young, we can't remember properly. What was happening in 2011? Because you keep on referring to 2011, and we're trying to imagine what really happened in the crime intelligence in 2011, which you see it now and gives you those flashbacks of what happened in 2011.
I said, honorable members, I wouldn't want us to maybe go too deep back, but many things were pronounced, ventilated at the Zondo Commission about intelligence, things that were happening. I will invite you to go and read that report again. But at crime intelligence at the time, what was dominating the media space was the looting of the secret fund account in such a manner that it ended up getting a name of slush fund. Majority of the citizens know it as slush fund. It's not a slush fund. It's a secret service account. But because it was misused to that extent, it then became a slush fund. That's what was dominating the media space in 2011 when I came in, which was a sore point within crime intelligence.
But I'll also invite you to go and check my YouTube at that time where I said, when you speak on the phone, you must first greet General Mdluli before you speak to the person you're speaking about, because they were known for illegal interceptions at that time. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. That's why Gerald Cele himself, as initial commissioner at that time, fell victim of the same thing.
Now, you now are back, you're appointed. I know you went acting, came back, and then you appointed a provincial commissioner in KZN. How does that happen now? And what is the minister's position in relation to that? Did you object to your appointment or anything of that sort, or there was consensus that you must go to KZN?
You talk about 2021?
No, when you became full-time, yeah, not acting.
Look, when I approached the National Commissioner in December, there were delays. I met with the minister because he needed to be consulted. Minister Cele at that time did not want me to leave the head office. He wanted me to still remain at the head office. And he felt that maybe my expertise would be wasted if I go to the province. I'm better off to assist at the national level. But I pleaded with him that I needed a new challenge. So it took that long until March. That is when I think they started engaging with the executive in the province, where the agreement was reached. And then I was informed that I can go and start in April. So starting from December until March, it was there was a long time of discussions. At that time, the provincial commission had left, and there was someone acting. And so I came in to take over from someone who was already acting at the time. My aim was to be appointed before the provincial commission leaves, so that we can do the handing over, which is something I did when he came in 2019. When he came in, I sat with him for about a week doing handing over before I went back to Pretoria. I wanted to do the same thing when I was going in, but because of that delays, he ended up leaving without doing that handing over.
When is your contract coming to an end?
My contract is ending at the end of March 2026.
Is there any discussion about renewing a contract, or everybody just went that quiet about it?
No, there's no discussion. The discussion, according to the rules, can only start 4 months before. So we're not there yet.
We're not yet there?
No, we're not there yet.
Okay. Now, General, the political killing task team, according to your explanation, I don't know if they were calling it PKTT at the time when Balula was saying, we need to do something with the killings of councillors and all of that in the province. And they were assembling of a team that was working on that before 2018. So before the president made that pronouncement in Maritzburg, what was that called?
It was not a team, honorable member, because you had a prioritization of the investigation on cases that involved politicians. That's what was done. But they identified a detective per police station, per district, to take those dockets. If there's a politician killed, it must be given to the detectives. But that detective was taking those dockets on top of other dockets that a detective has. So if you have a murder of someone somewhere and so forth, we have other 10 murder dockets that you must investigate. Then we have this additional one of the politician. The prioritization of the detective to investigate will be equal amongst all these dockets that he has in front of them. And a matter of fact, you might prioritize a matter of a 80-year-old woman before you prioritize a matter of a councillor of 30 years old. So then there was no prioritization in terms of investigation by the team. But it was not, correction, not the team, but those detectives that we identified, they were scattered all over. So they were not working as a team.
And the president then announces at Maritzburg in an ANC event, the councillor who was killed of the ANC, he has gone there in his capacity as the president of the ANC and makes pronouncement about government on how we are going to intervene.
That's correct.
And I heard you saying, wanting to differentiate between the executive authority and the politician. When does the other one take leave when the other one takes over? Because it's one person.
They're interchangeable. And that's a dilemma that we face, honorable member. I'm glad you're asking that question, because the members are going to claim overtime for protecting the executive member, whereas the executive member is on a campaign, political campaign, and addressing these political parties and the likes, using the state vehicle, using the state petrol, and using state protection. You must be there all the time. So when he then speaks, like in this case, he's dressed in the political regalia. He wears a political tie and is accompanied by his comrades, not the leadership of the executive of the province, but the political leadership. But he pronounced things of government of what this minister is going to do and that minister and that minister and that minister. So legally, if we're to ask me whether is that right or not right, I cannot answer. Because he remains the president. Whether he's sleeping, he remains the president. Whether he's in a rally of a political party, he remains the president. We have a duty and responsibility to protect. We have a duty and responsibility to act on what he tells us. But of course, whatever he communicates, it has to be structured in government. I think that's why after announcing it there in that political setup on the 18th, the ministers meeting on the 21st, he came to this house in Parliament to announce the establishment officially of this interministerial committee. So I think that's where it became official government thing. He might have initiated it from the political side, but he made it official when he came here. And it became a formal structure. Maybe if we continued with that pronouncement, it never came here, we will still be asking ourselves question whether it was what we're doing a political decision or a government decision. But because it was confirmed in the House when the President addressed the Parliament, we take it that it was an official government position.
Now, the PKTT then gets established, you are involved, Khumalo is involved, you are running the thing. You are in charge of this team. And one morning you wake up to hear that dockets are in Pretoria of something that is your baby. What happened there? Did your own team got so compromised that when they were told to bring the dockets, they could not give you a hint that someone is calling for dockets in Pretoria? Because the way you're explaining the relationship and the engagement you had with this PKTT, it's in such a way that it's so intimate that no one can just come and say to them, do this, and then they don't bounce it back with you before they act. What really happened there? Was PKTT infiltrated and compromised, and an underground operation took place and took the dockets to Pretoria without your knowledge?
Honourable Member, I'll invite you, perhaps, if it does happen, that General Khumalo arrives here and appears before this ad hoc committee to be able to explain, because he's the one that gave the instruction to the members to bring the dockets to Pretoria. I said yesterday, and I'm saying again, I was not very pleased with him, because when all that happened, he had not told me about what was happening. So when I was engaging with him, as I was confronting him, he said, you know what, there's just too much politics. I've been complaining about SBIA ever since to the National Commissioner, but whatever I say doesn't matter, it seems like it. And the SBIA continue doing what it's doing. While this side is having the crime intelligence that he's trying to deal with, and he's having challenges there, and he's seeking assistance from the head office, from the national office, and he's not getting the assistance. So it's a man who started getting frustrated. And I think when this thing came to him, he just felt, maybe let me just get rid of this, because the National Commission maybe is not assisting and stopping it. Let me push it aside and focus on my things. And that's why he omitted to then make me aware. He simply gave an instruction to a colonel. He said, Colonel, go and fetch the dockets, let the investigation bring them here, as per this letter. So that colonel told the ones in Durban, they said, bring these dockets, and the dockets were transported. That's how the dockets ended up in Pretoria. When I became aware is when they wanted to bring these dockets back. That's when I asked him, because when I heard about it, I wrote him a letter. I said, I'm told these dockets are in Pretoria. How did it happen? That's when they responded to say they were moved in this fashion.
I understand that, General, about Khumalo, but your members, the individual members who are in the PKTT, who've got this high credibility and are executing the task expected as their commander, as someone that you work with, apart from whether Colonel called them or Khumalo, why didn't one of them communicate with you? Because this is, I'm trying to establish this effective machinery that you are saying. This is the most effective machinery we have at SAPS. Why is not the senior ranks, these investigators, these people who are dealing with the actual issues, why are they not giving you that information that General Khumalo or whoever said who must bring the dockets to Pretoria? Only to hear after. I mean, you gave a very good example that someone comes into your house, he takes your things and then he goes away with them and says, when I was at your house, I took 1, 2, 3, 4. No one can do that at my house. It will never happen. That you come into my house and take something and I don't know about it. So what really happened to these members who are so loyal and so active and so disciplined that they can't tell their commander, only to be embarrassed that his dockets are in Pretoria?
Yeah, honorable members, the command and control, when it's effective, such then happens. Because our structure and our working arrangement was that the members that are doing the job, they understand and they know their commanders. They don't bypass that process. The center was holding. So at the center of this operation was General Khumalo. So when I was getting briefing, Khumalo and the leaders of certain groups will come and brief me about the work they do. I will not engage with the individual member directly. So I was always engaging them in a formal structure all the time when I'm engaging with them. So the problem started in January, as I said. I also learned from General Khumalo that the members are not happy. So when I asked him, what do you mean the members are not happy? He said, because they were supposed to get awards during the Excellence Awards and their names have been removed. They are told they are no longer going to be recognized with anything. That's when I went to meet with the members myself. Because when he phoned me, he told me that the members are not happy. So I went to meet with them. For the first time, I had a one-on-one with them. And I asked him, they said, Gerald, we are disappointed. I still said to them, I'm going to give my allocation of one table of 10 people. Come as my guest. Come and sit there. They said, no, we appreciate Gerald, but it's better we don't come. So that was the first time where I had a one-on-one engagement where I got to feel the pain in their eyes. This is January, long before the letter is written. The dockets are taken. I started feeling the pain in their faces in January. Fast forward, the same January or February, there's this instruction of the reduction of the workforce of this team. At that time, I conclude that it is because of the budgetary constraint. That because the budget approval has been reduced, we can therefore not have this total workforce that we had. I accepted that. We are running towards the end of the financial year, reprioritization that must happen. So I did not challenge it. But then the financial year starts in April. Obviously, the budget might not be allocated almost immediately. But again, the team that is authorized to continue the work as a new submission is made in April 2024, it still speaks about the reduced number of deployments. So I concluded that it means the challenge is the budget. That's why the reduced number. So knowing the challenges we have, financial challenges we have as an organization, as a country as a whole, I couldn't challenge that much. I said, okay, well, we'll do with the less number of members maybe going forward. But when this communication of DOC has been taken up to Pretoria came, I then realized, but these problems started back then, the letter, the members not getting rewards, and the members are starting to question themselves from January about the work they are doing, whether they are upsetting the executive and why the executive is treating them like this, up until the period when these dockets in March are taken up to Pretoria. So it's already a couple of months back, and that's why the members, I think, they became numb to complain about anything, and they didn't say anything. They just kept quiet.
So when they arrive in Pretoria, these dockets, they are put under SBIA.
SBIA is in charge of both crime intelligence and detective. It is my understanding that SBIA wrote to the Divisional Commission of Crime of Detectives, General Sentumole, to take these dockets from crime intelligence. So I don't see on the directive where did he want these dockets to go to. But it's my understanding that the docket were kept at the office of a brigadier under General Sentumule's office. Of course, General SBIA remains the boss overall. So meaning he has access to those dockets in one way or another.
Of the 121, there were 5 dockets which had clear instructions of arrest.
That's correct.
What happened to those dockets? Are they, have you arrested people since the dockets are back? Have you arrested people? How far are these cases? And if they still remain unresolved, what is the issue?
We are still looking for the other suspect, but 2 of the suspects have been arrested on those dockets, and one of the suspects unfortunately died. I think he was already identified, but he died, so he couldn't be charged. It's no more. but the others, we are still looking for them.
General, what do you mean the minister you met at Mbangeni and the minister you met in this letter are not the same people?
They're totally different people.
Why?
I asked myself the same question, Honorable Member, because when I approached the Chief of Staff, when I called him on the 2nd of January after learning of the letter, after seeing the letter, it was my understanding that the relationship between me and him will allow for him to secure the meeting with the minister, as he did before the minister came into the police. He was able to say, oh, you are the provincial commissioner, I know the minister, so that he get to know you since you are policing his environment. He doesn't live here, he works at Department of Water Affairs. So come and meet him. So we met. It was a meeting, one of the elders and one of the senior government leaders in the province. It was not a problem because we just did that unofficially. So when it's time for us to talk business, I expected the minister is going to open his arms and said, I know you already through Nkabinde come, but that never happened. And that's where I started wondering what could be the reason behind it. But when he's in front of me, he smiles all the time. But this, what I'm asking for, is not happening.
Now, if you say the minister did not write a letter, and this is not the same person I see who smiles all the time when we meet, and the one that I see in the letter, two different people, will that be an excuse that someone gave a minister a letter and the minister signed? Because he doesn't dispute that is his signature. Once he signs, that is his letter. And we can't say minister didn't know, someone misled the minister, because I don't understand which angle are you trying to take there. The minister signed a letter. Even if he said, I didn't read the letter, I just signed it. It is his signature. It means he didn't do his own duties by making sure that he reads through the documents before he signs them. Is there any excuse why shouldn't we hold this letter against the minister himself as his own letter?
Well, it is the minister's letter. When I registered a complaint, a criminal complaint, minister is one of the suspects that I'm pursuing in that complaint I have, because he's the author of this chaos.
How far is that case?
The chaos. This is a real chaos.
Yeah. How far is that case you complained about this?
It's still an investigation. I'm not part of it because I rely on the prosecution in KZN and the team investigating to brief me from time to time. But the progress they shared with me 2 weeks ago, was quite pleased with the progress that they're making. The minister owns the letter. He signs it. It's his letter. However, if we're to fix the problem, it is my belief that we must go beyond the minister's ownership of the letter. With his signature, it's his letter. That's given. But we need to find out what led into him writing such a letter. When I speak to the Chief of Staff and he said the letter has been going back and forth, it is against that background that made me to believe that someone crafted the letter for the minister to sign. Yes, obvious. If a person gives a gun to shoot and kill someone and you take that gun and you shoot and kill someone, it's your problem. But we need to find out who actually gave you the gun. So this is basically what I'm trying to communicate, that can we not just leave it with the minister? Let's go beyond, because we're going to miss problems that exist in the organization if we only deal with the outcome. Let's try and fix the real problem.
In this case that you're pursuing following this letter, minister is a person of interest and you're saying the investigation is going on, they're getting briefing from time to time. Is there any arrest anytime soon, according to the briefings you're receiving?
It is my prayer and hope that by the time the 31st of December of this year comes, we'll be talking about the letter of the 35th of December last year in court. That's my hope.
Now, Minister, General, don't you think, and that's my observation, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, this Nkabinde went to tell, because you explained he's got a minister, his relationship separate from you with the minister. Went to tell the minister, okay, let me start differently. I don't see anything wrong with you going to see a minister. It's actually part of your duty. It's your constituency. As one of the high-profile people in your province, it's always important to know where your high-profile people are found and who are they and all of that, so that if a call is made, you know how to respond to such a call. So I don't see anything untoward. But I think that, and you'll correct me, that Nkabinde told minister that I know the general of police here in KZN. It's my guy. You know, we roll together and all of that. And then he came to you and said, I know the minister is my guy. We roll together. So you're thinking you're going to meet the minister. And the minister is thinking he's going to meet the general. And he is not making you guys aware. Why? Later on, when a minister is supposed to appoint a chief of staff in the police, he appoints that guy because he thinks that guy has got a connection with the general of police. He's a former policeman, and it will make my work easy. Whereas a new minister of police, don't you think this guy played everybody in that space?
Yeah, well, I believe there was an intention that he had when he made us to meet, definitely, which I believe maybe that what benefited him at the end.
Now, General, was it not an overreach to say in that press conference that the judiciary is also involved? Because judiciary, me and you and all of us, we have a duty to protect it with everything we have. It can't be that a magistrate who has faltered wherever, because I believe if a magistrate has faltered, there is a recourse. We can take this on appeal and do all manner of things. But to use a judgment of a magistrate to then say judiciary is involved, I think it was a bit overreach. I get the point what you are trying to drive home, especially a magistrate. As a member of the Judicial Service Commission, judiciary to us is judges. We know magistrates is part of that. But when you are asked to give example of these judicial people who are involved in this wrongdoing and who are given a name of a magistrate compared to what we had at the press conference, I think there was an overreach there.
Honorable Member, I had said earlier, unfortunately, you'll appreciate at the Madlanga Commission, there are two presentations that are done there. It's an open one and the in-camera. If this ad committee were to adopt similar approach, perhaps maybe engaging the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence, you will hear things that might shock you about that, what you believe is a judiciary, which is judges, how the judge gets involved in the mess.
Is that your evidence, General, that in camera we're going to hear explosive things about judges?
Yeah, it's there.
Now, General, I want to quickly summarize some of the issues my colleagues will deal with. Do you know, or before I go there, when you realize the minister is not giving you an ear, the minister is not listening to you, and it looks like these things are proceedings, the same way you did when you were acting commissioner, did you try to reach out to the president, or did you reach out to the president and tell the president that there is this illegal activity that is about to happen and please intervene as the executive authority?
No, unfortunately, I did not go to the president. I will have relied on a national commissioner to play the role that I played when I was in that position, to reach out to the president.
But do you think the president was aware that the PKTT is going to be dissolved?
I cannot say that. If I listen to what he said in the recent media interview he did in Northern Cape, it makes me believe that he didn't know. When I met with him after my press briefing, he acted as a person who was not aware of what was happening.
Do you know the relationship of President and Paul O'Sullivan?
No, I don't know how related they are. I just don't know that Mr. Paul O'Sullivan speaks a lot about being in contact with many people, including the president. So I have not gone deeper into establishing the type of relationship they have.
Does he have do you know of any relationship between him and one of the president's advisors?
Mr. Paul O'Sullivan? No, not I know of. I know that there is a lot of talks about engagement, I think with Mr. Chauke and amongst others. But again, it's something that it's communicated out there, but I never really got deeper to investigate the type of relationship that is there.
Through our own intelligence, were you able to establish that Paul O'Sullivan is a member or a former member of M16?
Well, I have not necessarily got the briefing in details from intelligence in that regard. I've heard the talks about it. I don't have the full briefing. What is of interesting is that he's got citizenship in 3 countries, and that makes me wonder. And he seems to have been a person who got angry when he was disturbed by being removed from the ports of entry in South Africa, the main port of entry at the time, which was Johannesburg International Airport. When he was removed, he did not take that kindly. So it will make me conclude that there were some things that were happening in that airport that made him angry.
So we'll be correct to say Mr. Paul O'Sullivan is one of the rogue elements that are destabilizing SAPS and wanting to capture every senior police officer at SAPS, and if you don't cooperate, he start engaging in blackmailing activities.
With no doubt, I'm going to invite the parliament through the structures of intelligence or structures of security and whoever structures you can come up with, to look at the time of Mr. Robert McBride Turner as the head of IPD. How they were interacting with Paul O'Sullivan. Bank movements, money movements, the meeting venues, the cell phone locations where they meet, how they engage in terms of investigation. I'm saying this to the members because it is that which Mr. Nkabinde told me, who is now a chief of staff in the office of the minister, that operations of IPD were planned, coordinated, and executed at Paul O'Sullivan's house. That was his words to me. So I'm going to request that such be investigated in details, because the phone will put McBride in this place, will put Paul O'Sullivan in this place, will put Nkabinde in this place, and others. And when that investigation is conducted, nobody can deny it, because we'll know exactly that all of them have been operating guided by Paul O'Sullivan. And that is on one side. And I'm interested to know, honorable members, as to who is the author of the report that was produced when the city of Johannesburg, as well as the National Commissioner, wrote to the State Security asking them about the legality or otherwise of the gadget that were bought by the city of Johannesburg at the time when Jairus Bia was in charge of the security in that place. And who is the company that supplied that gadget? And how was that gadget sourced from the country in Europe where it comes from, in the UK? And I want to also recommend an investigation against the purchase of the similar gadget that was bought by DPCI back in 2010, where Jairus Bia was working at DPCI at the time. Whether such was bought legally, who are the supplier, and who's the manufacturer of the things. And I'll want the parliament to check every financial records of Mr. Paul O'Sullivan and all the individuals I've mentioned. And so that we're able to trace and draw a conclusion whether is Paul O'Sullivan a clean man or is an agent. So I think based on that investigation, we're able to conclude whether is he indeed a clean man or he is what is being said in public, an agent. If he's a clean man, why he does what he does? If he's an agent, who is he working for? But it is time that this country must not sit back and be run by Mr. Paul O'Sullivan. And if government fails to act on it, the men and women in this country, they're going to take it upon themselves to do something drastic on it. And it might not be what this government wants to do, because he has gone too deep in showing that he's got control all over. And maybe lastly, I might ask the members to say, if you ever heard of any report that is deemed to be classified, that's supposed to expose the wrong that has happened, such reports be interrogated. And one of them, IP has a responsibility to investigate criminal things. When you hear the Minister of Police says, I've got a report from IP that is classified, you need to ask yourself a question. You are not an intelligence structure. What do you do with a classified report that you don't want to release? As IP, what is that report doing in the minister first place? Because IP deals with the criminal case docket. Whatever you investigate must get into the case docket, and that docket must go to court. Why will it go to the minister and the minister goes out public and say, I've classified this report, I won't make it public? So these are the things that might need to be checked, because it is when the system of government fails. And you have worked hard to create a legislation to try and protect yourselves, the citizen of the republic. But if it's manipulated in that fashion, that the minister can just decide, I'm classifying this, I'm not releasing it in public, perhaps you need to ask, do your minister that classifies a document, do you have a security clearance yourself? So how do you classify something if you yourself are not vetted? You don't have a security clearance. So what gives you basis to classify something? So those are the typical examples that I'm talking about that might need to be checked. The problem in the law enforcement is so serious in this country that's why I'm saying, if these things are going to be centralized in a national commission, then it might not be fixed. There's too many problems that exist. And if we start looking at how can we decentralize some of the things, we lessen the risk against this country. And it's a serious risk, honorable members. So that's why I'm going to end on that response.
Well, General, I don't understand why would a bully like Paul O'Sullivan, who is a person of interest because he's suspected to have brought some certain gadgets in the country, is now involved in the destabilization of the security cluster, is so deeply involved. Why is the National Commissioner, or including yourself, not opening a case on crimes against the state? Because when you are engaged in the destabilization of the security cluster, you are a national security threat. And therefore, a case should be registered against you, and he must be investigated and be arrested, because he has been going on for a very long time. He has become untouchable, he has become a bully, and it looks like everybody is so helpless around him. What makes it like that? Why are we not opening a case at that level as police, if we have this kind of information to verify the authenticity of the things we hear, so we legitimately investigate him, especially on crimes against the state?
Yeah, well, I think majority of the things that are happening that Paul O'Sullivan is doing at the head office, and the authorized people that are closer, that are affected, that should be assisting us in such investigation, that should be acting on it. Myself, I have not necessarily pursued anything because I never really had much details of what. I will hear him talk about things. What triggered me, first time that drew my attention to him, when he published through the media, he published the photos of Gerald Patlane, who was the acting national commissioner. When he published the photos of Gerald Patlane's house when it was still under construction. And then I started asking myself a question, this house was finished about a year ago. How did he get hold of these photos? That was very interesting to me, that it's not like we're investigating now and you go to the place, there's construction, you take photos. But he shows a building, a structure that was under construction a year or two ago. And he started with a complaint later and he says, this man was building a house of this amount and this how he was paying for the house and so forth. If the Paul O'Sullivan is going to come and say the national commissioner, and I said to the national commissioner, we need to open a case against this. If Paul O'Sullivan is going to say the national commissioner owns a property here and here and here and here and here, how does he afford all these properties? How did he get the information? So we always say that you get, I'm sure majority of citizens in South Africa experience that you get a phone call from a company and they market, they want to sell you something. And you ask them, where do you get my number from? They say, no, we got it from marketing, whatever things. The reality is our communication, our contact details, our personal information gets to be shared with third parties without authorities. That's a reality. And nothing much happens on it. We see it with the marketing happening on our phones, and then we see with people that act to be activists like Paul O'Sullivan that are going to start publishing things that you wonder, how did he get hold of these things? And if those things exist, why didn't you open a case and get them registered? But he doesn't talk about the case. And what disturbed me the most, which I said to the National Commission, I don't understand how you keep quiet about this. When the National Commission was appointed, Paul O'Sullivan came out public and he said he was given the names of people to profile. He himself said that the presidency gave him names of particular number of people to profile whether they are suitable or not. And he made the recommendation who is suitable or who's not suitable. And some of us didn't know that. When a national commission is appointed, it means his profile went via Paul O'Sullivan to profile. So if that is true, it therefore means the president had invited him to come and give advice at the presidency. And that becomes a serious risk for us. So, but I said to the National Commission, it affects you. If it was me, I was going to open a case, but I don't think this thing should be allowed because this man is saying he's now making a decision as to who becomes the National Commissioner, please.
General, I want to follow up on the drug cartels. Every time we're told of a big five, and a big five, my understanding is that it's a drug cartel. And when we are asking for the names, we are told of Matlala and Molefe, who are now in jail. But they're not in jail for drugs. They are in jail for a gun that is connected them to some celebrities and all of that. Meta and all. For Transnet, DJ somebody and. How do I conclude that these are the big five of drug cartels? Because they're not charged with drugs. And like you said, the drugs are a big problem. Not that others are not a big problem, but the drugs are the ones that are going to destroy the young ones. And when we are asked about this big five that deals with drug cartels, we are given two people who are in prison, but they're not charged with drugs.
Presented by the team as a covert operation, they have the details about it that I might not be able to talk to it. However, a strategy of arrest, of an investigation of a case, you might arrest a person, although in this case you are labeling them as part of Big Five, and the Big Five is involved in this drug syndicate. We might not arrest them for the drug specific, but the bigger investigation that talks about drugs is there, but the charges that we are putting against them are something else. It's a strategy we employ in the police to keep people behind bars until we are ready with a bigger case and we throw it in. A typical example is the same strategy we employed in KZN when we were dealing with the AKA case. And we arrested a whole lot of them for other cases, just to keep them in custody until we were ready with the main case when it was matured and we could identify all of them. And then we started charging all of them for the murder of our celebrities. Otherwise, they were already in custody. So similar strategy we are doing on these ones. We are taking them for other cases. We are adding any other case because they've got many cases. Safe to say, with respect to the case of the death of that employee at Vereeniging, Mr. Swart, it had nothing to do with drugs. It was tender issues there that involves Mr. Mleef. But the murders of these DJs is drug related. When the picture you're going to see when the matters gets to court is that this one thought he's clever by stealing this one's drugs and he starts selling them, and this one then killed him. Mm. So not to say the victim is a clean man on drugs. He died because of something that he did wrong to this one. So we have a consignment of over 200 million rand, for instance, if I use that as an example. The police in the organization is there to identify exhibit, you book it in the SCP-13 register in the police station, you leave it there. If it's such big thing that you transfer to another safer storage place, which in this case will be a forensic lab if it's drugs. But it so happened that in KwaZulu Natal at one stage, there was a consignment found in Durban. And our laboratory in Durban is at Manzimtoti, which is about 10, 15 kilometers away from Durban. And they did not have a facility to keep such consignment of drugs. And the next place where we take these drugs to is Pretoria, where we keep these drugs in the bigger storages. But it so happened that case that the drugs were entered into the SAP-13 registers of a police station, booked out the same time, and transported south of KZN to Port Shepstone, and locked into the offices of the PCI that had no one guarding it. And during so-called alleged load shedding at night, there was a break-in in a big storage facility. A break-in inside that facility, there were bags of drugs, and there were also other drugs that were not associated with the ones that came, the consignment that came in, and there were firearms, illegal firearms that were also stored in there. But when the break-in happened, the only thing that was stolen was this specific consignment of 200 million rand of drugs, and nothing else. You arrive at the crime scene, you will expect the crime scene is being cleaned, everything is stolen. But you arrive there, you find an AK-47 standing there, then you say, but why didn't they steal this AK-47? Then you realize the mission was not the AK-47. The mission was drugs. So they came to collect what is theirs, and they took it away. They left everything else untouched. And that made us conclude that it was a plan break-in, because the question we are asking TPCI, why did you allow these drugs to come to your offices and there's no one guarding, and you have load shedding, and this thing happened during load shedding? So we believe the information tells us that those drugs taken there ended up in Johannesburg are part of the drugs that caused about majority of the murders that happened in Johannesburg. Because people took it and they started stealing, and they did not deliver them where they were supposed to deliver them. And that's what caused the unhappiness from some of the people. So yes, we're not talking about the drugs on the arrest of Mlife, but drugs is part of the problem that leads into the murder. The charge is a murder, but the reason is the drug that comes as a result. So there are many others. The ones that we are not mentioning is because we have not charged them with anything. That's why we're not comfortable to even mention them, but they are there.
Second last, General, MPs involved with these drugs cartels and criminal syndicates, because we are MPs sitting here, and when we are told MPs are involved with drug cartels and criminal syndicates, we start asking ourselves, who are those? And that's what the public is asking itself. And, General, apart from the registering a criminal case, as an MP, if I'm engaged in unethical conduct, there is a committee called Ethics Committee where I can be reported. I don't have to be investigated through intelligence or anything of that sort. Why has there not been an effort from your side or from anyone who's involved, who knows these MPs who are involved in drug cartels, criminal syndicates, report them to the Ethics Committee, including the judges? Because I get worried when judges are subjected to covert operations. It's a threat to our democracy. Any judge that gets involved in wrongdoing must be reported to Judicial Conduct Committee, and will deal with that matter at that level. Not to be told that there's a judge who's going to come before me in the... I'm very sensitive around judges, because once they are threatened, me and you are no longer safe, because that is the last arbiter. They are the ones who must safeguard us. So why are these people not MPs with drug syndicates, judges with drug syndicates, criminal syndicates, MPs Ethics Committee, judges JCC? Why are they not reported there, and we left them in the hands of the covert operations and not anything above?
Yeah, well, majority of these things happening in Gauteng, Honorable Member, and the team investigating in Gauteng has not necessarily involved me. I got to share information, I get to know information because they're briefing me. And what I said earlier, what drew me into this mess was the closure of the PKTT, which was a KZN. Had they left it alone, I wouldn't be sitting here today, because I would not have been privy to what's happening there. I became aware because they're updating me, because they had my members there, and suddenly there's a closure of the team, and then I get to ask questions. That's how I start slowly. Although they are feeding me with information, but it remains a counterintelligence information, so they're not giving me the full picture. They are drips and drabs, and I'm also not asking questions. I ask where there's a need, and they give me what I need to know. So how are they handling it going forward within that investigation? I said earlier, it's an investigation that is not only handled at crime intelligence alone, but is within the intelligence structure. That's how elevated it is. So how are they going to handle it further? I trust that they will follow those channels so that they can be able to deal with it. There are instances that the PKTT have registered complaints against presiding officers in KZN as based on their conduct that we have done. So when we talk about, yes, we use the name judiciary because we wanted to indicate the seriousness of what is happening. I said, unfortunately, some of the information that is at hand, it's a covered information, recordings that are there that I might not be in a liberty to just communicate. I listened to them. That's why I was able to say, okay, here's everything. This is a conclusion that I reached to bring the attention to the leadership to say we have a problem. The MPs that might be implicated, and I must say up front, as I said about the minister, I'm not in a business to protect people, but I must also acknowledge that majority of the people that end up being implicated, I spoke about the letter of Minister Mkhun of December, the majority of the people that get implicated on things, they arrive there by default. They're not aware that they are getting there. So if you're going to be a political party or an MP and you get a financial support from someone, and the person who's giving you this financial support is not disclosing the intentions, you're going to get hooked. By the time you open your eyes, you are right in the web. You can't escape it. So sometimes it comes in that fashion without you paying attention. You invite, you stand outside your house, you call an Uber car, and the Uber come and pick you up. You have no clue who the driver is. He arrives there and he loads you in the car. You have no clue what's in the boot of the car. There could be a dead man inside, or there could be arsenal of firearms, or there could be drugs in it. But when the police stops in the roadblock, who do they arrest? The driver, including you. Because you are found in this consignment of drugs and the dead body. So by default, you become, we can say we are a victim, but you're a participant to a crime. But you're not aware that you're a participant into a crime. So there are many MPs that might fall victim in that fashion. But there are some of them, few, that deliberately are part of the problem, and knowingly so. So we are dealing with those as part of the investigation that we are doing. So it's not that if we're to use percentage-wise, I cannot say that all the MPs are in the wrong, but definitely I think Parliament took a right decision by demanding to know who's financing political parties. But what maybe is missing is to know who's financing an individual MP. Because the MPs within the same political have got ambitions. They fund their own resources to do political campaigns so that they get into leadership positions in the political party. How they go about getting this money can be part of these criminal activities that we are talking about today. And they might not even be aware themselves because someone is helping them to elevate them to a position. So the party discloses, but the individual doesn't, because it's not everything that they disclose. So it's some of those things that might need to be looked at going forward. Thank you.
General, thank you very much. I just want to, in a respectful way, disagree with you on the decentralization of police, and especially the examples you are giving. Those were tribalistic divisions that took place in our country, where you had Leboa police, you had Venda police, you had Zulu police. It can't be that we decentralize the police and we go back to the ethical divisions of this country. We are a unitary state, and therefore we seek to unite and become one thing irrespective of ethnicity or the color of your skin. What you are suggesting may even play in the hands of racists who are now calling for independence of certain provinces away from our own country. And we think that perhaps you need to relook into it. I agree there shouldn't be one individual with so much power. But how do we democratize it without decentralizing it? I think that's a debate we can have even beyond these walls of Parliament. Thanks, General.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Honourable Member, I agree. The decentralization might not necessarily mean exactly to be like the homeland, as it were. I use that as an example. But then I went further and I said, there are many countries, first world countries, that are structured like that. That one country has got a federal system and they've got the local system in terms of law enforcement. And certain examples, honourable members, was that to have a person at in a national office to worry about an assault case in a locality, it's something that we might have to look at whether can a local police that does not have to account here be able to carry such docket. So those are the things that we might need to start discussing. Whether is it something that falls under the provincial government, whether it's something that falls under the region, if it were, we have to discuss. But the ultimate, what I'm talking about, for instance, maybe using this opportunity, honorable members, is that we adopted the culture of organizing ourselves as an SAPS in line with the district model that the president came with. I've argued in the BOC, Board of Commissioners, many times that this is a wrong structure that we've adopted. Because we are structured to our point, our end result is court as the police. So however we organize, we must organize around the court, not organize around municipality. So it could be part of the things that says maybe the provincial delegation of this power might not work. Maybe we must look at how the NPA is structured, must look at how the justice themselves, courts are structured, because they remain national, but they are kind of independent at the provincial level with the jurisdiction of how they operate. So when we set up our own structures as police, instead of having district commissioners, we need to look at this district that covers at times 2 or 3 court jurisdictions becomes a problem for the performance of the police in terms of taking matters to court. There's some of the things we need to engage on, but research is needed. Whatever I'm proposing will need to be researched. And we're not going to make a reference to the homeland security, but we have to make a reference to the first world countries, how they do policing and what is good. And that is simple, more about efficiency, not about ethnicity at all. I disagree. I also agree with that one. We can't use the tribal issues that we did before. And the national legislation must remain the one that is a founder, regardless whether it is centralized. We must still account in terms of the legislation.